Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, distinguished guests, and folks of all stripes, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, your Houston sports podcast for diehard Houston sports fans from a diehard Houston sports fan. I'm, of course, Paul Salazar Jr., your favorite diehard Astros podcaster. I am a digital content creator, writer, self-appointed cookie philosopher, and creative multi-hyphenate. Of course, I'm a Houston native, and I have the receipts to prove it. I went to the Summit. I went to the Astrodome. I even went to the original Mama Ninfas. I've spent the last decade or so as a comedy writer in Los Angeles, and now I'm podcasting. That's what happens once you hit 10 years out here. You wake up one day calling the movie industry just the industry, and they give you a podcast. Welcome to said podcast. This is what my brother calls the Paul Broad Pod Ball Blog. Hey, brother. Check out spacecadetsports.substack.com for the full blog experience, or the full blog experience, depending on how you want to interpret that pronunciation there. You know, I started Space Cadet Sports as a diehard, as a passion project, I meant to say, because, you know, most media is infuriating as a diehard long-term fan of your Houston sports teams, whether it's the Astros, the Texans, or the Rockets. Here we try not to be doom and gloom fans, or worse, the national media haters. We love our teams and root them on, but we also want to discuss the ins and outs of them without too much homerism. Keyword try. We try to be reasonable and not too hot-takey or reactionary. And now that football season is here too, full swing of football season. You know, this is mostly it's been mostly a lot of football this past couple of months, but we're here for that as well. It's not just an Astros podcast. For those of you who are unfamiliar, you might think it's just an Astros podcast, but it is not. We talk about all of Houston sports. We even go to the Dynamo corner every once in a while to talk about the Dynamo as well. Welcome, new listeners. Welcome, returning listeners. Returning listeners know, of course, we are recording this transmission here in sunny Los Angeles, where I'm joined by my co-host and co-producer, the Roz to my Fraser. Carla, the dog, is here with me. You know, returning listeners know she may get on mic from time to time. She's got the hot takes on the podcast. Also, yeah, I'm happy to say that it is a sunny day here in Los Angeles. You know, there are a lot of things happening still in terms of the ongoing wildfires, the Eaton Fire and the Palisade Fire. You know, but things are getting better. You know, it's a tough time. It's a tough time. I've lived in Houston, now living in Los Angeles. I've lived in places where natural disasters occur and they're immediately politicized. They're immediately thrown on the 24-hour news cycle for views and for clickbait and to sell ads. So, you know, I just ask that whether you are whether you are looking to find more news about the wildfires to help out, or just because you're concerned, or whether you're looking because you're hoping to wield some political agenda. Truly, you know, just be compassionate. Know that people, you know, there is something going on right now, and a lot of us are dealing with it. You know, I'm very fortunate, but it's always disheartening when you see the role that media can play in our day-to-day lives. That's why we started this podcast. You know, media can be divisive. You know, media is there to be clickbaity and to divide us amongst ourselves, to get hate going strong. So I'm just saying, you know, make sure you're being compassionate. Make sure you're sending love out there to people that are experiencing it. Even if it's just me, if I'm the only one you may know experiencing it, you know, I'm very fortunate. I'm very lucky, but it is still, there's been some tough days out here, and a lot of them, you know, revolve around people I know going through much worse experiences, but still, just dealing with the air quality, dealing with all the things out here. It has been challenging. However, things are improving. I feel like I can say it's a sunny day here in Los Angeles. But I am also just trying to say I know that there are a lot of people out here still going through it. This is me trying to get some positivity going, hopefully not toxic positivity like the air here in Southern California. And also just a reminder to be kind to the people that are going through stuff right now. Today, moving on to the podcast, if you're new here, thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for coming to the podcast. If you're returning, you're used to these tangents, these crazy segues, these ramblings that I do from time to time. Welcome back. You also know that I like to start off the podcast with a good day, mates, to my listeners in Australia. That's right. We don't like to brag, but we're in... well, actually, we're not. We're just outside of the top 100 of Australian baseball podcasts, so we're kind of a big deal. I like to say good day to my Australian listeners. If you know an Australian, let them know that my podcast is out there, whether they live on the continent or whether they're abroad. Either way, we want their listen, folks. We want to be the number one place for Astros content for Australians and for you personally. Today we're going to be talking about all of our teams in a little bit of a, dipping and dunking here and there. I did not prepare that. I don't know what that sentiment means, but that's the zaniness, the impromptu, off the cuff podcast producing you can expect from me. Today we're going to talk about your Houston Texans. We're going to obviously talk a little bit about their upcoming playoff game against the Kansas City Chiefs. We're also going to discuss your Houston Rockets. Your Houston Rockets, we're kind of in a mid-season checkup mode for them. We're going to see where they're at, how we're feeling about them on the podcast, how Space Cadet projects the rest of their season may go. Look, I'll be honest with you. I did not do any season projections. I'm out here in a manic mode, just promising you things that I'll have to come up with on the spot. But that's fine. We'll figure that out. I am talking myself into a corner. Let's go back to my notes. Get back to my notes. Stop freewheeling out here. I'm the freewheeling Bob Dylan. I need to calm down. The next thing we'll obviously talk about is the Houston Astros. We have some personnel movement to talk about, some potential personnel movement to talk about. We're also going to break down what kind of content you can expect from the podcast and the blog going forward now that we are ramping up to the winter ending and spring training beginning. I know I'm excited about it, and I hope you are too. So we're excited about those things on the podcast. We're going to take a quick break now that I've had the longest introduction in the history of our podcast, and we're going to continue on. Stay tuned, folks. All right, thank you for coming back. Yeah, obviously, Carla was a little distracted. We got a delivery. I wanted to cut the recording before she went ham on the delivery driver. So it wasn't just my lengthy introduction, but it felt like the right time for a break. We're going to go ahead now and end that break. Get back to talking about sports. Oh man, I'm in my silly goose era, obviously, today. I feel like this is the energy that I usually bring to my other podcast, my comedy podcast, but we're bringing it to the sports one today. We're going to talk about your Houston Texans, previewing this playoff game against the Kansas City Chiefs. There's kind of a lot to talk about. Speaking of my other podcast, I had a good friend and actor, you might know Jordan R. Coleman from Snowfall, from the show Snake Oil, perhaps A Million Little Pieces. But he went on my comedy podcast, and we actually took a good amount of time to talk about football. He talked about being a high school football player in Texas. He also talked about the Houston Texans, but you can go to Sunday Morning Pre-Recorded, check out that podcast. Yeah, it's a little bit of a long one. Yeah, we talk about some comedy, but there is some Houston Texans content in there as well. But today on the podcast, something that we did not discuss Sunday morning pre-recorded is Bobby Slowick. Yeah, we did mention him. Of course, it's hard to have a conversation about the Houston Texans 2024 season without mentioning the much blamed offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick. Obviously, it's been a tough season for C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans offense, and it has not just been about injuries. But Bobby Slowick, the Houston Texans offensive coordinator, was scheduled to virtually interview for the New York Jets job. And you know what? They can have him. I mean, honestly, I feel like they're standing by their man. They weren't planning on moving Bobby Slowick and figuring out that offense. But I think I've seen enough. I think I am okay with the Texans moving on from Bobby Slowick. And that's not to say that he's absolutely garbage and he has no place in the league or anything like that. There are people that have some bad seasons, have some bad years. They don't quite figure out the personnel doesn't match with their system or whatever the case may be. I just think that I'm not optimistic as to how quickly Bobby Slowick can pivot his ideas. We're having to wait for the season to end and for him to go into an off season to see him make some adjustments. It feels like, perhaps I'm being very cruel. Maybe I'm being comedically cruel in my assessment there, but it does feel like, a lot of coordinators can make game plan changes in game. And I've yet to see the guy make a change to his game plan in season. So, I'm not sure how flexible this guy is. So obviously I did a spit take when I heard that he was interviewing for the Jets head coaching job. It is not that wild. Just last year, Bobby Slowick was a hot name. A lot of people were very interested in Bobby Slowick and had a lot of good things to say about him. Obviously, the tide has turned in Houston, but nationally, a lot of people feel optimistic about him. Still, obviously, getting my Texan coming out of me saying "steal," but I think I think I'm not saying he's getting the job. I just thought that was a little wild. I did not have that on my bingo card, as the kids say. Best of luck to Bobby Slowick getting that job, I guess, is what I'm saying. But we'll see Bobby Slowick's future, what the future holds for the Houston Texans. Outside of the Bobby Slowick news for the Houston Texans, it's once again the national media is not respecting the Texans. Rex Ryan and the media pretty much said that the L.A. Chargers and Harbaugh had a bye week against the Texans last week, and everybody in Houston, Texas, knew what that bye week felt like for the Chargers. They had to say bye to their playoff hopes instead of taking the week off. Obviously, I don't think the Chargers took the week off. I don't think Jim Harbaugh did not take it seriously. He showed up with game planning and intensity. The Chargers did not lay over. I'm not trying to say anything about the Chargers disrespecting us. That was very much the media pundits saying those things. And they're back. Nick Wright. I don't think this is too crazy of a story to tell. Nick Wright, Nick Wright said basically the same sentiment, that there's not going to be much of a challenge for the Kansas City Chiefs this upcoming week. And the story I want to tell about Nick Wright, I guess, real quickly. This is another thing. This seems like something that would be on my comedy podcast, Sunday morning pre-recorded. That's more about celebrity talking about comedy and stuff there. But Nick Wright, the story I'm struggling to tell because I'm like, should I even tell this? But I've teased it enough. I'm going to tell it. I don't think it's bad. Nick Wright's wife and I once, before he was big, I think this was before his ESPN contract, I want to say it was right before he signed it. I was on a plane to LA, and I sat right next to Nick Wright's wife, an incredible lady, beautiful lady, very lovely. She was so sweet to me, and, we were talking about why I was in Los Angeles. I was talking about my writing and my comedy, and she was very interested and wanted to know more. She was so kind and loving, and I thought she was just, every now and then you get on to a plane with somebody who's maybe a little nervous or so they talk a lot, or when you're going to LA, sometimes they're just a great networker. even though I talk a lot on the podcast, in real life, I'm a little bit more shy and reserved. I'm not big. I'm not a big networker, especially on planes. I'm hesitant because I don't know how people are doing. I don't want to, be too much. And she was absolutely lovely. She was just networking with me, wanting to know what I could do, wanting to see if I could do some work for her potentially, stuff like that. So that she was incredible. But I got to get a little bit of inside this behind the scenes stuff about Nick Wright. And he seems to be an incredibly lovely man, a great father, definitely a good husband. She loved telling me stories about Nick Wright. I don't think I'll tell you those stories, out of respect. Those were for me, not for you. But I will say that they seem like an incredible family. So me calling Nick Wright out here, it's not like I know him personally, but I'm not saying that that's a bad take. But that he's in the business of hot takes. I'm not, it's not a hot take. It's just a very strongly worded take, and I do think that not a lot of the national media has any kind of hope of the Houston Texans winning this playoff game. I think usually it's H-Town versus all y'all, but this game has us not only disrespected as an underdog, but somehow also cheered on, or at least chaotically hoped for David in a lopsided match where the Houston Texans are playing David and the Chiefs are your Goliath, for all you biblical scholars out there that come to the podcast hoping that I make some biblical references. You're looking for my A attitudes instead of my B attitudes. I know what you're here for, biblical wordplay, obviously. So I do think that the Houston Texans are in a weird spot where where no one believes in us, but everybody's hoping on us. But also at the same time, they're hoping that we'll win, but expecting the Texans to just shit the bed. It's this false hope. It's this kind of, whenever teams play the Yankees or teams play the LA team, the New York team or the LA team, most of the United States rallies behind the other team, and that's where the Texans are right now. The Kansas City Chiefs have been dominant, are back-to-back champs. They are the team to beat. They seemed to have had a season full of privilege where they just got to skate by and still put up an insanely great winning effort, and just they look like they're easily marching back their way to the Super Bowl. So, a lot of teams don't have that success. So they're rooting for the Texans to be able to make some noise and to knock them out. So this is a really weird position for the Texans to be in. Usually they're very hated or dismissed. If they're not hated, they're definitely dismissed. You only have J.J. Watt out there as the sole voice in the national media that will ever say anything kind about the Houston Texans, it seems like. And as soon as he does, the memers go out to start dunking on him. So, this is a weird position. I don't know. Write in, call in, let me know how you're feeling about it, to feel a weird warm hand on your shoulder supporting the Texans, and you're just not used to it. I don't know what to do with this. I feel unnerved by it, I guess. But yeah, we'll have to see. The Texans are going to wear their all white unis on Saturday. So if you're like me, all white is never something I normally go for in my wardrobe. A white shirt usually means danger. I'm gonna spill spaghetti sauce or coffee or I don't know, just end up bleeding on it somehow. I don't think I'm that terribly clumsy, but I somehow find a way to get my white shirt sturdy. I will be wearing a white shirt on Saturday. I'll let you know if I stain it. I'll have a Tide pin ready to go, just in case my clumsiness gets me. But the Texans will be wearing their all white, so I'll be wearing my all white. I hope you will be too. We're hoping that the planets will be aligned on Saturday, because that's what they will be, apparently, according to astronomical news. The planets will be aligned. The Houston Texans helped kick off the Chiefs' run in 2019. They had a October win against the Chiefs in the regular season, 31-24. And then once the playoffs rolled around, the Chiefs met the Texans. The Chiefs went on a huge run, won that game 51-31, and that was January 2020. I remember that game vividly. That was a terrible one. I would get that one removed from my memory. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind style. You could just call me James Carey because I can't carry the weight of that game anymore. And yeah, I know his name's Jim. I'm putting some respect on his name. I don't know why. He's a legend. That's why. I don't know why. So I don't know why I decided that bit had to also be defensive and contentious. I don't know. I'm in a weird headspace, folks. It might be the particulates in the air that have made me gone mad out here. If this podcast gets more delirious, call the authorities to check on me. I think I really think that it's any given Sunday for most teams in the league, but sometimes with the Texans, we're more like the little giants. They give us no respect. You just expect us to lose out there. But I'm hoping that these Texans win. I'm hoping that since the Texans were there for the beginning of this Chiefs playoff run, maybe they can be there to end it. Am I right, guys? That would be nice. The Astros got taken out by A.J. Hinch last season. Sometimes these weird narratives go full circle. Will this be a full circle narrative, even though we're not expecting it, or the national media is expecting it? I guess what I'm trying to say is, we don't expect, if we're looking at the projections, if I'm running the Houston Texans, Kansas City Chiefs through the simulators in my head, every single time, that's the noise my brain makes when you run ideas through it. And honestly, that's about how long it takes me to formulate a sentence. That sometimes takes about 5 to 8 seconds. But yeah, I think truly, this is going to be a tough battle for the Texans. In order for them to win, instead of saying they can't win, let's see what they need to do to win. Obviously, I think the first thing you need to look at here for the Texans is going to be offensive consistency. This has been a key for all of the teams in Houston this past year. There has been some glaring offensive inconsistencies, which, look, when you're playing a sport that you need to score to win, you're going to need to score consistently in order to dominate the field. The Houston Texans have not been that consistent offensively. C.J. Stroud has woken up. His legs have woken up. He's finding ways to get the ball down the field. He's finding ways to win. He proved that against the Chargers in particular. However, we're going to need more of that. We're going to need a stout offense against the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to need to score at least 24 points to win this game, I think. I don't think there's any way around it. This team is going to have to be scoring in bunches, and they're going to have to score each quarter. They can't take a quarter off. They can't take a possession off. They're going to have to move the ball minimally, at least for ball positioning. So this offense, it has a huge task ahead of it, and I think it can do it. It will have to do what they did against the Chargers. They're going to have to move the ball around fairly consistently. They're going to have to target everybody. They're going to have to kind of do some play action. They're going to have to, plays will break down, and they're going to have to find ways to salvage those plays. Obviously, we're going to be looking a lot at Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon is going to be the engine for this offense if they're going to be successful. They're going to need C.J. Stroud to be consistent for sure, but Joe Mixon and the offensive line and the running game will have to be established in order to win this game, in order for this offense to find consistency. So that's what we're looking for on the offensive side. And obviously for the special teams, look, the special teams has had a really good season. They had a really good game against the Chargers, blocking a kick, blocking a punt, returning it for points. I don't know if that's something that they can do, every game. But obviously this special teams unit is going to have to make some noise because the Houston Texans on paper against the Chiefs just don't match. We're looking at the Chiefs and saying they have the edge. So the Houston Texans are going to have to find any kind of efficiency out of every single player and out of every single coordinator. We're going to need some great special teams. We're going to need some good runs. We're going to need blocked something. I'm looking to get Frank Ross, special teams coordinator Frank Ross, became a meme this past week. We're hoping that Frank Ross has more memeable moments in this Chiefs game, and we're hoping that all Houston fans will be that Frank Ross meme instead of the David Mills faceplant meme by the end of this game. Honestly, I really think, we're needing that offense. We're needing some good momentum to come out of your special teams. We might getting a blocked punt, blocked kick might not happen, but we're going to need some big momentum winning plays from our special teams. And finally, of course, we're going to need that defense to do what they've been doing. They're going to have to keep on doing what they do, which is taking away the ball, making things uncomfortable for the passer, the quarterback, just kind of getting the pressure, making sure that the coverage is tight so there's no options to throw it, and having that ball hawking secondary be able to do some takeaways, getting some sacks, forcing some fumbles, just kind of generally being a menacing defense to play against. This will be an offense that will test them. I think the Houston Texans are going to have to be firing on all cylinders. They're going to have to get efficiency from every single department there, and those are going to be our keys to victory. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to check in with our Rockets as well. All right, folks, we're back. I hit record. I took a sip of coffee after it like a fool. That's probably what you get at the full blog experience for sure. This is part of it. We're going to go ahead and keep the ball rolling about our Houston Rockets. We don't want this one to be too much of a long one. I know I already have a racetrack announcer patter, and we're off. I know I talk pretty quickly, but, I don't want these podcasts to be too long ever for you. They're meant for you to listen to on your drive in traffic or on the train, on the subway. For all you New Yorkers out there that listen to the podcast, that's more Rodney Dangerfield. Did not do any dialect work before I started this podcast. Hey, forget about it. Now I'm in Jersey. I'm all over the place, folks. But I'm going to get out of Jersey. I'm going to go back to Houston, y'all. We're going to talk about our Houston Rockets. We're going to do a midseason night's dream, a check-in here with our Rockets midseason, who are looking to make a playoff push. Folks, this is not exactly what I thought midseason report for the Houston Rockets would be like this season. Honestly, these Rockets keep growing and keep proving that they are a real squad to be dealt with. Jalen Green has been on a tear lately. Just last night, your Houston Rockets played the Denver Nuggets. There was no Joker in the mix, just like the Golden Globes. There was no Joker. I think, it was a great game to see, even though they didn't have their top talent on the team, obviously, for the game. Jalen Green put Dario Saric on a poster going off offensively, and Jalen Green has been looking efficient. At one point, a couple months ago, it feels like maybe it was just in December. It feels like so long ago. But at one point, we were talking about Jalen Green's offensive efficiency. The NBA on TNT crew was talking about, when he was having, when he was having those seesaw performances, going off on crazy double-digit games, and then struggling to get out of single digits the next night. We were talking about those seesaw performances. But at least during this run, Jalen Green has figured out how to be an efficient option for this offense to revolve around. And that's really good to see. It's good to see him progressing. This team is deep. Injury issues or offensive inefficiency, from cornerstone players have not slowed this team down. Coach Ime Udoka has been figuring out his rotations incredibly. Got to shout out Coach. Got to make sure I say his name right. I mentioned this at least once every week or a couple of weeks. I have huge issues when I'm reading names. I don't know if it's a reading problem. I'm learning a lot about myself. I'm going to various doctors, learning a lot about myself. I don't know if it's a reading problem or just a speech thing, but sometimes I struggle to pronounce names correctly. I'm never trying to be offensive or disrespectful, especially to Coach, who's done an incredible job. Always want to say apologies to the people that I get their names wrong. I know this is a comedy podcast. I know I do a lot of things kind of in a dry way. I'm never trying to be mean about anybody's name. I'm just bad at it. But Coach and I, Coach we might not always agree with who is supposed to get minutes. I know in the past I've been like, why isn't this person getting minutes? But they're getting wins, and the team has been great. So, who am I to think I know the rotation and who should be playing in it? Going into the season, he was sitting Cam Whitmore a little more. Now he's sitting Reed Shepherd. This frankly, just not enough minutes for the young talent that you'd want to develop on this roster. But he's really figuring it out. He's kind of, he's had to send people to the G League at times. He's been getting wins, generally trying to keep people happy, and it looks like he's figuring it out. At least it looks like he's figuring it out. And in the win department, he definitely is. The Rockets have recorded their 8th 20-point win of the year. It's only the second time they've had 8 or more in the first half of the season. And also, not to give you some more stuff out there from in the news on the Reddit boards, the fans are talking about, Ben DeBose. I almost messed up his name too. What's his name? Bean? I apologize, Mr. DeBose. The Rockets now have the number 9 offense in the NBA this season, and the number 2 offense in January, and climbing quickly. So, since they've come back from winter break, they went, had some time with family, rang in the new year. Since they've been back, they've been effective for sure, and it looks like they could be getting more consistent. So we're looking at that. We're hoping that this offense continues. After the Denver game, Jalen Green, who had 34 points, has his 6th straight game of 25-plus points. Don't look now. Oh, Carla looked around. It's okay. You can look now, Carl. I said it too believably. Don't look now, but your Houston Rockets are number 2 in the Western Conference standings with a 27-12 record behind the preseason favorites of the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Oklahoma City Thunder are 33-6, and the Rockets are in front of number 3 Memphis Grizzlies, who are 26-15. 27-12. Is incredible. This is not exactly where I thought the Rockets would be at the beginning of the season, but honestly, the record isn't that shocking when I really think about it. I knew they'd be good. I just didn't know if they'd be ready, and right now, they look playoff ready. Does that mean that they have a deep playoff run in them? I think that's to be determined. I think we need to see some more consistency in this offense, how the rotation really shakes out, whether it's a flexible system consistency that their offense is always generated independent of star performance, or whether it's a consistency that's generated from one of the young stars, either Alpi or JG, finding consistency and dependable touches. That is to be determined. All right, folks, let's go ahead and move on to your Houston Astros. Obviously, I love talking Texans. I love talking Rockets, but I could talk about Houston Astros all day. So let's talk about our Houston Astros, even though we're in the middle of the winter. Where's Bregman going? Saying no to JV. Let's check it out. Well, I think we should at least first start off with the newest Astros news. For those of you who may not know, for those of you diehards, you already know this, but it's international signing time. International signing time? Yeah, that's exactly the right term they use for it. We've added Kevin Alvarez, a Cuban player who looks to be an incredible bat and a potentially strong outfielder, someone to be excited about for sure. I think he could be an incredible player. These international signings has been where the Astros have found a lot of great talent that have just kind of under the radar type people, and scouts are very high on Kevin Alvarez. However, curb your enthusiasm. The Larry David special, curb your enthusiasm about him fixing any outfield holes this season, because Kevin Alvarez is only 16. That's right. He's a young man. We're very excited about him, but there's obviously going to have to be some development before he is brought up to be part of the Houston Astros plans at the major league level. But still, he's on our radar now. We'll be watching Kevin Alvarez and his career with great interest. I'm like the Emperor Palpatine over here, or that I guess this is when he was still the senator. But I'm watching his career with great interest. You know the meme. You know the meme I'm talking about. Come on, don't make me feel old. The Star Wars Phantom Menace meme. I'm not even sure if that meme's popular anymore. I'm just referencing memes that might be putting me exactly in my age bracket. But let's go ahead and talk about Alex Bregman, who is trying to find a bracket of his own. He is not finding the market his agent was hoping for. And honestly, I know a lot of people are making jokes. I know a lot of people are being like, well, that's why, you get greedy. You do this. See, look at you now, but honestly, I feel bad for Bregman. That's our guy. That's still our guy, truly. I know, I don't like to see him go through stuff. I really do feel like he, even though he might not be on, he's most likely, 99% sure not going to be on the Astros next season. He's still an Astro to me, in my eyes. Truly. I'm being serious right now. No joke. Come on. Let's be real. I truly think that Alex Bregman, I'm not ready to be dunking on him just because he was going after a big contract. Do I think he should have signed the Astros contract? Especially in retrospect, seeing that he's struggling to find the deal that his agent thought that they could get? Absolutely. I think he should have taken the Astros deal, but obviously the way the market was looking, the way that his agent was telling him, he thought he could have got a better deal. He will end up with maybe a short-term deal. There's people speculating that he might even join the Cubs. There's all kinds of speculation. There's speculation he could be on the Red Sox now. They're trying to find a new deal for him that might be a shorter-term deal, kind of like Blake Snell. You get like a one-year deal, maybe with an option for the player, and then you go and sign a bigger deal. So that's probably what's going to happen with Bregman. He's going to get like a 2 to 3 year deal with a player option, decline the option, and then go join the free agency market next season, where he can get closer to what he's looking for, perhaps. But these are all business dealings, and I don't think, I think he was in a position where he's trying to get paid. He already has championships. I love Bregman. I don't think I'm not sitting here, gleefully happy that this is happening. I wish he would have been an Astro. So, this is all just tough. If he wasn't going to be an Astro, like he isn't going to be here, then I'd rather see him get paid, obviously, out of division and out of our league, in the National League for sure. But I still wanted to see him get paid. I wanted to go see him be successful out of our league, once again, with that caveat. So I'm not the type of person that as long as they were a good player, did their best, and tried to do the right things, I'm not going to be dunking on them because they're trying to figure out their business feelings. Contract negotiations are tough. I'm hoping that Alex Bregman finds a home so that he can start playing baseball at the beginning of the season, and he's not in a position where he's without a team and without a country when the season starts. I'm looking at you, Scott Boras. Do right by our boy. Stop the games, my man. It's time to get our boy Alex Bregman signed. If he goes to Boston, we're even looking at him potentially being reunited with Alex Cora, and Cora even saying that he could play second base because Rafael Devers is the third baseman in Boston. You're probably doing the math and being like, why would they need a third baseman? Well, they'd be looking at his bat and seeing if he'd play second. What's happening? It could be a weird future for our guy, Alex Bregman. So we're rooting him on and hoping that he isn't in the division and for sure, or in our league. But we will see. Another guy that we have officially said goodbye to, even though it's 99% sure about Bregman. This is 100% sure about JV. Justin Verlander has joined the San Francisco Giants. And there's been a lot of media out there, Barstool Sports, all kinds of places like that, where they take Justin Verlander's words and they twist them to make him seem like he hated his tenure with the Astros. I don't have the quote in front of me, but it's so silly. Just always remember that a lot of the sporting news is very selective and is meant to get people angry and get people clicking on their blog so that they could sell ads. We don't do that here. I don't like that. That's, this is anti-clickbait kind of thing, which makes sure that I never get clicks. No, y'all are so kind to me. I get plenty of Astros listens and clicks, but it irritates me, how much clickbait news there is, whether it is in sports or whether it's even in the weather. There has been so much just, let's divide people, let's get people riled up and angry about the things they're already angry about. So this JV word twisting has really frustrated me because we wish JV success as well. It's nice that he's so far away and not in the American League, so we can root for him without a caveat. I'm hoping he does well. The last couple of seasons for most Hall of Famers can be rough. He did get a 1-year deal to prove it here with the Giants. As much as I love him, we have to be realistic. He is not the pitcher we need right now. As much as I would have loved to see Bregman stay with the team, we kind of knew that Justin Verlander was not going to be re-signed for the Astros. Even when he was making that last regular season start for the Astros, I put that little written piece on the blog. This could have been Justin Verlander's last start with the Astros, and it turned out to be, and that's just because we knew the writing on the wall. We have plenty of starting pitching, but Justin Verlander, it was trending downwards and was going to ask for more money than the Astros were probably willing to pay for the output that they knew that they would get from JV. Plus, JV is not a guy that you could pull in and out of a back end of your rotation. He wants to be at the top of the rotation, and he doesn't want to get pulled out or used sparingly or used in a piggyback situation. All of those situations that you use for your back end of the bullpen or back end of the starting rotation pitchers are not things that Justin Verlander is very used to, or you're sure he would be agreeable to. So, getting them to a place like San Francisco where they need his talent and they're going to depend on him to solidify things, as opposed to need him to be flexible to bring in new talent and develop that. I hope that it's a better fit for JV and he can find success. I literally love Justin Verlander, and he's a huge piece of Astros history. I love Mr. Upton. Having Kate Upton there in the stands. My girlfriend listens to this podcast. I have to be careful what I say here, folks. But having Kate Upton in the stands there, rooting on JV, also was a huge joy. It's nice to kind of we don't have a lot of big celebrities that root for the Astros, so you kind of need some people to be the face of Astros fans sometimes, and having her out there as a face of Astros fans was very nice because people love Kate Upton. I really hope Justin Verlander goes into the Hall of Fame with an H on his hat. We love him here, but it was time to move on, and we're wishing him luck. The Astros are still poking around for an outfielder. Still, as the Astros were connected to Alex Verdugo as recently as last week, and obviously there's been lots of news about Anthony Santander, who they're trying to get a deal with, and that looks like that's fallen apart. I don't think the Astros end up with either one of those guys. I think those kind of negotiations fell through. Obviously, Dana Brown thinks we need another outfielder, like I do, but I doubt we get some big name. Probably not somebody in that class signed to the team going forward. Maybe we get another guy. Maybe it's another guy like Taylor Trammell, kind of a guy that's been around for a bit but hasn't really quite figured it out. Still has some promise but has some experience as well. I don't know, but obviously we're looking for more outfield help to shore up the outfield there. The Astros in roster moves, they traded Gray Kessinger, infielder Gray Kessinger, to the Diamondbacks for right-handed relief pitching prospect Matthew Linsky. I love moving Gray Kessinger. He's a good dude, and he's not at all part of the team's future plans. There's not a lot of space for him on the bench right now, so moving him to find a team that could use his talents is fantastic, and getting something in return, I love to see it. Don't just send him back down to the minors when there are people that would be interested in him, and there's obviously not a lot of use for him going forward with the addition of Christian Walker and Isaac Paredes. You have a lot more infield flexibility on that roster now, especially with Mauricio Dubon still there, available to play utility. There's not much use for an infield defender at the back of the bench. Before I lose my words and my sentences there, my thoughts just fell out of my head, tripped over my tongue, trippingly on the tongue. I think I wanted to talk about the City Connect jerseys before this podcast ended. Ending with the Astros news definitely feels like a bit of a bummer because we're still got a lot of question marks there. But let's end talking about the City Connection jersey anticipation. Everybody is excited to see what these jerseys could be. We loved the old City Connect jerseys, especially here at the podcast. We loved them. So we're kind of nervous. We're looking to see what Nike has in store for us, and we're hoping that we like it. A lot of people are thinking they're going to go with the black and brick red throwbacks from the pinstripe days. Maybe not the pinstripes themselves, of course, but maybe that color scheme from the opening of, the opening of Enron Field. I know a lot of people are upset about Daikin Park and Minute Maid Park no longer existing, but things move on. It used to be Enron Field. We don't have to call it that now, at least. Maybe will be those throwbacks, or do you think they're going to be more of the blue and gold 90s look? There's some people speculating about that. Or, I think it's a long shot. But, me in my heart of hearts, I was hoping for the rainbow jerseys. I was hoping for the tequila sunrise. I've been hoping for those throwback rainbows for a while now. They seem hesitant to do them. I think they'd be fantastic. I say you do those and you wear them every day of the year. That would be my pitch and my love, my first option there. Bring back the rainbows, bring back the tequila sunrise. Let's have some fun. In the next month, obviously we have the winter ending and spring training started. Like I said, we're going to start doing weekly positional breakdowns for the next month. We'll do starting pitching, middle relief, pitchers, catchers, and late relief, infield, outfield. We'll break down all the positions for you Houston Astros and lead up to a preseason prediction of how we think the Astros are going to do here at Space Cadet Sports. We'll let you know what we think with our projections. We're going to run those through the simulators, and we'll let you know what we find out and how we feel about our Astros going forward. We're going to have more weekly content there for you here at the podcast and some more content at the blog at spacecadetsports.substack.com, so check out the Substack. Folks, on that, before I start plugging the Substack, that's going to do it for this transmission, Space Cadets. I want to thank you so much for being a great listener, coming back and listening to me. We are a small podcast. We only go as far as our listenership takes us. We're always supported by listeners like you. So please, if you've gotten this far, smash those buttons for me. Like, rate, review, subscribe, share, kick it, bop it, pull it, twist it. Whatever buttons are available for you, please hit those. Except unsubscribe or dislike, I guess. If there's a dislike button, please hit those buttons for me. Share with another H-Town hustler. Check out the Substack at spacecadetsports.substack.com, where you get every podcast, every post, and every meme dump emailed directly to you for free. You just put that email into that field. Say that you want my content, you get it for free emailed to you every time it is posted. Or if you're like me, get the app, the Substack app on your phone or a tablet. Download it, search Space Cadet Sports. You see that orange astronaut pop up. Say that you want notifications instead of emails. You just click that box. You don't get emails. You get a pop-up notification whenever I post a podcast, a blog post, or meme dump. I like that experience a little bit more. As I was saying, check out my SNL podcast, my sketch comedy podcast, let me try to get that name right, Sunday morning pre-recorded, Spotify, Apple, everywhere you can find this podcast. I'm sure you can find that podcast as well. I want to thank you for listening. Definitely check us out on social media. That's going to be at Space Cadet Sports on Instagram and Threads, or you can find me directly to let me know what you think. at Paul Salazar Jr., Paul Salazar Jr. on all social media platforms. There's a lot going on with social media platforms right now. I try to stay active on most of them. I stay active on all the cool ones for sure, but you can find me on most of them there. Let me know what you think. If you want to call into the podcast, you can do that on SpeakPipe. That's speakpipe.com/Space Cadet Sports, where you can leave me a voicemail. Let me know what you're thinking. If it isn't too inappropriate, I might even throw it on the podcast. Who knows? If you don't want me to, obviously mention that as well. I know some people are just wanting to chat with me. I don't have to put it on the podcast without your permission. Just let me know if you want. It's just a personal call. Thanks for listening so much, folks. Remember to be the best that you can be. Keep your head up, kid. And as always, vamos, Houston.